Hey everybody, welcome to another Warships replay, and this one is the last match from my division with Fenji. He's finally got his Langley. I'm still playing Niwaki, and once again I get the northeast spawn on Big Race. The enemy have two carriers mirroring our own. In fact, this is very much an even team composition. Both teams have exactly the same number of each class of ship, though the enemy do have a much heavier strike wing in the form of two Japanese carriers. I push tentatively into the northeast corner, kind of seeing what I can see up here, preferably without getting spotted in return. St. Louis is firing at something to my left. I think he's just shooting blind because I'm not spotted, and there's really nothing there for him to shoot at. I begin to turn in behind this island, but I am lit. Spotting quickly drops off as I get behind the terrain. There's a Myogi pulling around that point there, just beyond the buildings. So if I can, I'd like to get the drop on him with torpedoes. And so I begin to think about doubling back my course and getting back behind this island. There he is. He'll soon be within my 10km torpedo range. So right as he's about to cross into it, I let two spreads go, just to see if he will be dumb enough to drive into them. At the same time, I spot the enemy Wakataki and let some HE shells fly in his direction, immediately crippling his steering. Narrowly make that turn.
Concentrate fire on the designated target.
And then pull back in behind the cover of the island, just to try and avoid getting the shit blown out of me by the Myogi there. Although he appears to be focusing on somebody else. Of course, while retreating, trying to light him on fire with some withering high explosive fire. One torp hit, two torp hits, 3 and 4, so I've crippled 2 of their battleships there with those 2 spreads of torpedoes. I didn't even know the Kawachi was there, so that's an added bonus. Meanwhile, my anti-aircraft manages to knock down one of the scout planes. And seeing as how badly damaged these guys are, I decide to hang about for another launch. Our bombers did drop a spread on the Myogi, but they didn't lead him far enough, and so he's just going to be able to evade those by holding his course and speed. And so I make another pair of drops there, and a very poorly thought out broadside into the edge of the island. Looks like the Myogi might have spotted my torps. He's turning into them. So the first spread misses, looks like the second might as well. But in the meantime, I've come across a smoke screen. The enemy Wakataki is trying to lay smoke. Now it's really dangerous driving into a destroyer's smoke screen like this, because at any second torpedoes could appear in front of you and you might not have time to react.
Torpedoes, dead ahead. Just
like that. Thankfully he's a very, very poor shot with torpedoes, and so they all miss me without me having to evade at all. The nice thing about him popping smoke is that it means I don't need to use my own. I can use his own smoke against his teammates by hiding in it and shitting out torpedoes and shells at them. As soon as he's killed, there's nothing actually in the smoke to spot me, and although I do get lit when I fire my guns, I can just sort of fade back into concealment. Put out another 2 spreads at that Kawachi. I was expecting him to probably turn right when he saw them coming, but in fact he's actually smarter than I gave him credit for, and he turns left. Although I'm not sure if that was a function of him seeing my torpedoes, or if he was planning on changing course to the left anyway to close range with our battleships. In any case, both spreads miss him, the second spread only just, but I have him burning pretty nicely there. And so while in the cover of smoke, you can see me fading in and out of sight for the enemy there, I'm able to finish him off with my guns. take a big hit. A lot of crits there from this Kawachi, a second Kawachi who appeared on my right side. Now, of course, I knew he was there because he was spotted for a long time on my minimap, but because I was mostly concealed by the smoke, I wasn't too worried about him. Now, my smoke screen is gone, so, well, I should say the Wakitaki's smoke screen is gone, so I had actually popped my own there towards the end as well, just to keep concealment up. And now I fire 2 spreads of torps at the Kawachi to try and get him to keep his head down and maybe get some hits. I wasn't expecting to hit him, I thought he would evade them, but it turns out he was so preoccupied with shooting me, he just drove straight into the torpedoes. And I pick up a devastating strike and a high caliber off that spread. Already up to 3 kills from 7 torp hits. This has been a successful enough game as it is. The enemy have a single St. Louis on the cap, but he is probably going to die very shortly, and so that allows me to shift my attention to the 2 carriers, both Hershos to the south, I would imagine. That's usually where they're found. The enemy destroyers have punched through to our side of the map and will soon be up in our carriers. There's not really much I can do about that. I haven't got much chance of catching a Minikaze and 2 Clemsons. And the remaining enemy Kawachi is well and truly out of my way. So I decide I'll deal with the 2 carriers, which will get their strike wings out of play. Then I'll double back in towards the cap, see if I can finish off the destroyers, and try and engage the Kawachi with torpedoes. Now I am spotted here, which means that one of the carriers must be nearby. It has to be to my front somewhere. So I get myself ready to open fire. Sorry, not Minikaze, there's actually a second Wakitaki. I'm just trying to guess what ships the enemy have by silhouettes. So they do indeed have 2 Clemsons and a Wakitaki, not a Minikaze. Of course, the Wakitaki looks very much like the Minikaze, and by extension the Mitsuki. It is, however, a bit smaller, it's a bit shorter, and doesn't carry as many guns. Lone enemy torpedo bomber there comes in and delivers a futile gesture of resistance. There's absolutely no way he would be able to really hit me with that unless I was completely brain dead, like most of his team were, and so I engage him with guns as I close the distance. I'm using high explosives to try and set him on fire. Burning carrier cannot launch or retrieve aircraft. And aside from that, I've got a better chance of burning him down than I have of consistently citadeling him at this range. Once I get closer, I can citadel him easily, but I may as well just burn him anyway. He launches yet another single bomber. His torpedo bomber squadrons have been rather badly mauled, leaving him without any real means of defending himself. My anti-aircraft engages, of course it's so predictable, and I'm able to pull away and shoot down the bomber. These 2 are now completely fucked. There's nothing they can really hope to do, except maybe score a lucky magazine hit with their defensive guns. Now, the Hersh's defensive guns are basically the same as mine, right down to the little gun shield. They're 140mm cruiser guns. It has 4 of them, 2-4, and then 1 on each side, towards the rear of the ship, as you can see there. First carrier gets taken down by torps, and then I close in on the second. Meanwhile, the enemy destroyers have actually worked their way through our team and killed basically everybody, except the 2 battleships in the east. This Hersho closes the distance. I thought he was going to try and suicide ram me here, but it seems not. I guess he's just trying to get his guns into close range. Begin trying to citadel him here as I wait for my torps to reload. Unfortunately, my aim isn't that good.
Problem solved, sir.
Torps are up, but it's a pretty extreme angle, and he easily dodges them. But the second spread is a little bit better, and he's already in a turn, so he can't get his rudder shifted in time. Down he goes.
Enemy aircraft carrier blown up.
The enemy Kawachi is still on full health, which is going to be a problem. However, the Wakitaki and Clemson that I can see are damaged already. And there's the second Clemson, who is in quite a bad way. Now, I actually do feel fairly confident in my ability to take 3 destroyers. However, I don't feel confident in taking the Kawachi unless I can get a good ambush position on him. The reason being that if he hits me with even 2 or 3 shells, it's probably going to knock the remainder of my hit points off. And there's just way too many hit points on him to work through with high explosive alone. Destroyers chase down one of our 2 remaining battleships. I do open fire on the lead Clemson, who also has the most hit points out of the group, and begin some gentle evasive maneuvers. Gentle enough to keep my guns bearing on the enemy destroyers, but enough to discourage them from trying to shoot torps at me. In any case, the Clemsons are well out of range of torpedoes, and I'm pretty sure the Wakitaki is as well. They do launch at the Kawachi. He's fucked. He's also burning from stem to stern. There was pretty much no hope for him to survive that. Lead Clemson pulls in behind his wreck. The low health guy might be the more obvious target, but I want to get the leader down while I still have a chance, while he's still reloading his torpedoes. I will gladly close the range on these guys. Although it makes me much more vulnerable to their torpedoes, it makes it much easier to hit them with my guns. And here is where I screw up. I should have held these torps, because I could have easily finished both these Clemsons with guns alone, as I did just there, and I'm now left with no torpedoes and a Kawachi right in front of my face. Now, although I popped my smoke screen, it's too late. He's close enough to see me easily. I could have reversed up into my smoke here, but he's so close. He's going to spot me inevitably. And so I do open fire, and there it goes. He's firing high explosive, which means he set me on fire and critted everything. If he was firing AP, I might have just got away with that. Unfortunately, our Myogi is way too far away to give any support. He's chasing down a lone destroyer who appears to have beached himself. And as you can see in chat, I know that I fucked up there, and that's basically the end for me. I'm not going to be able to get my torpedoes reloaded in time, even if this guy missed. His secondaries probably would have finished me off. So that was unfortunate misplay for me there. I really should have held on to those torps, at least one spread. One spread of torps should have been sufficient to kill the Kawachi, or at least knock him down enough for our Myogi to kill him. Myogi does finish off that destroyer, but now his turrets are all pointed the wrong way. And he's also badly out of position to deal with the Kawachi. Not only that, but he's eaten one of the torps from the destroyer, and is doing just about everything he can to avoid killing the Kawachi. He's showing a full broadside target to it, he's got his guns masked, he's just... I don't know what he was doing chasing that destroyer down. It's never a good idea to chase a destroyer in a battleship. Don't do it. If you are intent on killing the destroyer, you need to let it come to you. You cannot go to it. It will just kite you into a position where it has you right where it wants you, and then it will finish you off. Or even failing that, like this case, it will drag you somewhere where you're going to be in a very poor position to engage the actual threats, the enemy battleships. So had this guy been pursuing the Kawachi instead of the destroyer, it's very likely we would have won this. Had I held on to at least one spread of torps, we would have guaranteed had a win here. But it's just one of those things that you don't realise you've made a mistake until you've already done it, unfortunately. And outside of some spectacularly lucky RNG on my part, scattering the Kawachi shells around my ship, which it will do occasionally. The Kawachi has horrific accuracy. There's really not much I could have expected there to try and pull this one out. But a 7-kill game, plenty of torpedoes. I ended up having a monster of a match either way. And we lose the Myogi to flooding and gunfire.